Okay, so I just noticed that what I'm about to talk about in this video is going to seem or potentially be heard as something that is fantastic, some experience in the future called realization, called awakening, that is amazing and profound and fantastic, and it's something that isn't already here, isn't already in your experience. Some event is going to happen to you in the future, and the more obscure the descriptions sound, as I attempt to describe something paradoxical, the more the mind has the potential to frame that into something fantastical and something desirable and amazing, as an attainment, as a realization that is going to happen for someone in the future. So the actual realization that I'm talking about is such a simple thing. So it really is the same thing as this. So I'm going to describe to you an object. It's a blue lunchbox. So that you have an idea of a blue lunchbox, and then now I'm going to point it out to you. So look at this blue lunchbox here. So then that's the recognition. I described something to you, your mind made an image of it, and then I showed you the blue lunchbox, and in seeing it, that you then realise what I'm talking about. So you have now realised that the blue lunchbox. What I'm talking about in regards to awakening is the exact same thing. The only difference is we're not talking about an object and experience. We're zooming out and we're talking about an exploration of or a realisation of something about experience itself. That's the only difference. The realisation isn't any different from what I just showed you there. The distraction is what the mind makes of it, and also the difference is that what I'm talking about, you're never not experiencing as experience. Experience is always experiencing itself, or you are always experiencing experience, you could say. It's possible for you to not experience that blue lunchbox, like you're not experiencing it now, other than maybe an image in the mind, and then it comes into experience. What I'm talking about in regards to awakening is experience itself, which is always your experience. So like making an event of it in the future is the equivalent to me trying to describe this to you, trying to describe a realization about this blue lunchbox to you when you're staring right at it all the time. It doesn't make sense. So what I'm talking about in this video is I'm pointing to something in experience, and it's going to sound very obscure and very much like something else, something that's not already here, that's different from your experience as it's happening, as it appears right now. And I just wanted to say that it's not like that. Don't get caught up in this as a realization. The realization is the simple part. The implications of that, and the reason that it hits so deep and it's so profound, is just the profound nature of life itself. Nothing to do with realization, nothing to do with realizing something special that's not already inherently here. So I just wanted to point that out and make that distinction, because I talk about some very weird stuff in this video, and it's just a way of pointing into experience, pointing to experience. It's not something that it should be taken conceptually. It's not something else, it's not somewhere else. What I'm pointing to is your experience, which is happening right now, which I'm appearing in this video right now. That's what I'm pointing to. It's immediate. And any profound or the profound nature of the recognition, the realization, is the profound nature of the very fabric of reality itself. Nothing to do with an event called awakening. So on to the video. So I'm going to respond to these couple comments. So Rachel posted a comment on the most recent video saying, "Hi David, thank you for your talks. Can you please speak about the I am sense of existence? Does this disappear when the person is seen through?" The I am sense seems to be experienced as totally impersonal. So I'm assuming it remains after the shift. Please clarify, thanks. So what's referred to as I am sense is the most obvious experience, because it is experience, or you could say it is the substance of experience. So there's nothing that you can experience that's not, you could say, appearing as or appearing within the sense of I am. You could describe it in many ways, but any conceptual description merely points to the sense of I am. You could say seeming to be made of it or appearing as it. The sense of I am is the most clear and obvious experience when it recognizes itself. You could say it's the sense of awareness before awareness takes a position to be aware of something. You could say maybe it's the sense of looking, or the sense of hearing, or the sense of thinking. And that the fundamental sense of existence, of aliveness, the experience of present beingness, is seemingly all of these sense perceptions appear within or appear as. You could say it's the fundamental knowingness that allows all experience, or is inherent in and as all experience, before that becomes formed into or qualified as something specific or somewhere specific. Some people describe it like it's the awareness that's aware of itself. It's a self-awareness, or a self-aware present knowingness. And it's really fundamental to all experience, which is why it's looked past all the time. Because in order to think about something or experience an objective reality, the sense of I am has to be assumed or looked past. To experience an objective world as a separate person, you have to take a few steps past this fundamental sense of I amness in order to engage with a world that way. It's too simple to find. It can't be found because it is the essence of the one who feels like they're trying to find, or the one who feels like they're looking or finding. It's inherent. It's everything in experience. Experience itself. So that's why a lot of people's experience for a while is that of a seeker, of looking for something, looking for the sense of I am, looking for an awakening. But that very act of looking for appears as a movement, you could say, within the sense of I am, or made of that fundamental sense of alive beingness, of that knowingness that is always here. You could say it's a precursor to seeking, a precursor to thought. But the narrative of seeking, or the thoughts that form, are the sense of I am, are made of that. Otherwise there wouldn't be an awareness of them. So that's why these descriptions are quite vague and not objectively true. Don't point to anything other than themselves. Don't refer to anything other than themselves, because they themselves are made of I amness, you could say. So when you bring your attention to the immediate, bring your attention to the, let's say, present moment, and feel deeply that I am here, I exist, not as a dialogue in the mind, not as a thought, but the actual immediate feeling of here-ness, of existence, of I amness. There's, wherever you are, you're here, you're present, you're aware of yourself. whatever you are is self-aware. That I know I'm here. So what is it that knows that I am? And then we can go through the exploration of experience here immediately. So we might notice thoughts arise automatically that try and qualify experience with a description or with some form of analysis or referential thought. And we just notice that those thoughts, whatever I am is aware of that. And noticing that, then we're no longer caught by the illusion, trapped within the spell of identification with those thoughts. We can see that what I am is here anyway, in the absence of thoughts, but also is aware of the thoughts as they appear. So, and we let go of the thought and come back just to this immediate sense of alive beingness that's inherent, that's already here. We're just maybe relaxing our focus on the objective world such that this sense of I amness can come into or can become more clear in experience, can become more obvious. So we let go of the thought and there's a moment of stillness. A moment of quietness. In the absence of mind activity. And it's clear that I'm here. I exist. I can feel my own beingness, the knowingness that knows experience. So that sense of I am doesn't have to be found. It's not something that is discovered as an aspect of experience. It is the very experience itself. It's unfindable because it's already here. That every aspect of experience, every experience we ever have or had, appears as within and as the experience of I am. The I am is just one way of describing it. I like knowingness. The fundamental self-aware nature of what we call reality, which is knowing itself inherently. And for that to become more clear, we just let go of or notice and release the illusions that seem to be obscuring that self-evident, obvious experience or nature of experience. And the illusions that seem to be obscuring it, which are actually made of it, you could say, are largely in thought, in the mind. The mind moves attention away from this fundamental experience of inherent, present, aware knowingness. It moves the attention away from our inherent beingness into a subject-object narrative about an objective reality. And like you said, it's impersonal, but intimate at the same time. In fact, it's really it's what all the self-referential thoughts are truly referring to. You could say maybe it's the fundamental identity, the most real and obvious experience of yourself, because every narrative about yourself, every experience from the subjective position appears within and as the experience of I am. So you could say it's maybe one step before you become a separate character. There's this awareness, and then there's the awareness of something, and to be aware of something, what's assumed in that is the awareness as a something else, as a subject, as the thing that's observing the something else. And that's the roots of duality, the roots of identity. So in this inquiry process, we're relaxing back into our fundamental nature as what's here prior to the formation of an individual, the formation of a separate character. So it's a subtracting of the movements of mind that make experience look like a separate point of view. So you asked, does the sense of I am disappear when the self has been seen through? And that's when it gets very hard to talk about, because there aren't really any words to describe what this is, in the absence of the sense of I am, because it's not anything. It's not. In order to so that sense of I am, you could describe it as like the most fundamental, or the what gives rise to the most fundamental point of view, the most fundamental experience of existence as something, as anything. And in the absence of that, it becomes very paradoxical, because there isn't then a point of view you can adopt to describe that. The very the use for language is used to describe something with qualities, with describable qualities, with objective qualities. Language is used to provide understanding. The language can't describe the kind of understanding that I'm attempting to talk about right now, because it's prior to language. It's prior to existence. To take a point of view and label something as existing, it would require at least some form of duality, some viewpoint. There's no way to describe nothingness or emptiness, but it can become clear in experience. But even in experience, it's clear in an incredibly paradoxical way. I could maybe use an exploration of experience to point to what I'm talking about, but it's going to be very obscure and it won't make any sense if you start thinking about it, if you move into the mind to try and understand it from any point of view. But say you're looking out, it feels like you're looking out at the world right now. So I'm looking out onto a world from here. So I feel like I'm here. Assume that our direct experience is all we're interested in right now. So I'm not going to think about what's behind me. I'm not going to have a map of the room behind me or the street or the car behind me. All I'm doing is looking out from seemingly this point of view onto the world. It's quite clear that the world exists. It's clear in my experience that I am here, and my experience is. So I can see something seemingly in front of me. But there's something that is not here at the same time. So this is a totality of my experience, but there's also a not experience existing, you could say, simultaneously in an immensely paradoxical way. So we're going to turn the attention round back towards where I am. So from my point of view, where does view start? It's clear what looks like the objective world is out there in front of what feels like me as a separate thing. But then when we turn the attention straight back in on itself, or relax the aperture of attention back, and it's almost like we're looking back through this point of view, we see that what's also here is the nothingness in which everything appears, or the emptiness in which and as which all this form is manifest. And you can't find it because it doesn't exist. And it's not here, but also it kind of is at the same time, and it appears as this. But when you turn the attention right back, and you could say, what is behind you? What is behind your immediate point of view? You don't think about what's behind you as a position in reality, as a separate position, point of view as a person. Just in the looking, what is back here? Don't think about it. Just experience. When does this all start? This that clearly exists all begin? And where are you looking from in actual experience? I could maybe describe, it's going to be vague, my experience is that there's no me looking here, and what I could describe as something that I used to think that was me that was looking from here is nothing, is nothingness. So there's appearance, there's the physical world that appears, that is here, and that sense of I am that is here and is still clear. But there's also what's not. And what's not isn't, you're not going to be aware of nothingness because it doesn't exist. It isn't anything, it's not perceivable. But if I was going to describe anything, I would say that's where I'm looking from, which isn't anywhere. This is going to be really confusing if you think about it. But what doesn't exist is also... So I would say that what you are is almost like the intersection or the threshold point or the interface between nothingness and everythingness, between what doesn't exist and what does exist. What you are is the paradox, this immense, impossible, mysterious paradox that gives birth to the sense of I am from absolutely nothing, that gives birth to the totality of experience, the entirety of the universe. Anything that appears in and as experience, that appears from nothing and then collapses back into nothing. And then you can test it now. So spontaneously, as I turn, that entire reality collapses into nothingness. As I turn again, that entire reality collapses into nothingness and then reappears. The sound appearing, collapsing into nothingness. Simultaneously, this sense of form and time appears out of nothing and collapses back into nothing. The time is simultaneously there as an experience, but also throughout the illusion of time, that whole illusion appears as the timeless, outside of time, not contingent on time. The entire illusion of form, the objective world, this reality, appears in form out of nothing and then collapses back into a zero-dimensional paradox. Both simultaneously does exist and doesn't exist at the same time. So it just gets so paradoxical, and the beauty in it is the experience. That is your non-stop experience. The beauty and the awe of what I'm attempting to describe there, the impossible, the miracle that is life. We're looking at it constantly, and it's constantly mind exploding because because the objective mind, the self, appears as an object, as an illusion, as an object within this immense mystery. It's made of it. It has no chance of comprehending it. So from any point of view, this is just absolutely mind-blowing. From no point of view, it's completely natural, completely obvious to itself. So when there's no when this imagined point of view here that I'm looking out from is explored, when you look back and see that there is void, it's empty, it's hollow, there's nothing there, then the entire sensed world then appears as that. Appearing, let's say, within that nothingness void. But that nothingness void isn't a thing, it can't be perceived, so all we've got is the appearance. All we've got is what's seen. I'm sorry if this is mental, but you did ask. And then you can observe you can observe limits language, but then the emptiness of phenomena is obvious. So like I said, when there's no center point, when there's no point from here that I'm looking at, the what's being seen is no longer out there. And then there's no longer an internal world. The outside world becomes, you could say, the internal world. You become the void that perceives the sense world as the sensed world. Your experience of yourself then becomes just the senses, and just thought without a thinker, just the seen without a seer. So then it loses its dimensions, it loses its inherent realness. So I look at the trees over there, then when there's no center point here to give me a point of view of reference, that's no longer over there. It is over there from the apparatus of this mind body, but from what I actually am, you could say, which is nothing. It appears everywhere. There's no separation. I can't describe it. It's indescribable, but that's my best effort at pointing to what is there before the I am sense. What is there before the fundamental building blocks of identity, of the experience of an experiencer separate from the experience. But what's for sure is you don't need to think about any of that. You don't need to try and understand what I'm saying. You just look and experience. And look, what is the mind saying to make this look like something I know what it is? Bad sentence, sorry. What is the mind projecting onto experience to make it look like something? To make it look like I have a reference point to be able to objectify or figure out mentally what's going on. All of the what seems to be obscuring what I'm talking about there, which isn't an experience. You could say it isn't. You could say it both isn't an experience. It is experience, but it's experience from no point of view. It's really confusing. But what seems to obscure the clarity of what I'm talking about is an active engagement with thought from a point of view. It's an active doing, it's an active engagement with, and it happens on its own, but it's an active engagement with thought from a point of view, from a reference point, which is there to be able to orient yourself in a way that makes sense from that point of view. And it feels like we need those thoughts to be able to construct that point of view, so we know what's going on, so that we feel safe, we feel in control. but there's no personal control in what I just described. So like you said, if your experience of the sense of I am is impersonal, then that sounds like a good thing to me, because then you can just let go deeper and deeper into that impersonality, into that sense of knowingness before the need to know as something arises. Anyway, I hope that helps, and I'll talk to you next time.